Loron dia ouvintes no telespectadores rádio televisão Timor-Leste na fatin ho ami ia transmissão direta baloron da rua ia salão auditório kairala sanana gusmão Ministério Finanças ninian bebe ohin tama bai loron ruan nian na fatin ho ambiente ia Enkontru Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu ninian bebe maka ia loron ohin bazeba agenda bebe maka ami acesso na fatin natureza hanesan ia encontro baloron da huluk ninian ia apresentação husi setor desenvolvimento infraestrutura nien nebe maka lidera husi ministro planeamento investimento estratégico gestão Souza hone equipa e setor selo konaba capital social nien nebe maka lidera direta husi vice primeiro ministro segundo Mariano Asrami Sabino e se halo apresentação ba ia setor importante rua nien no tuir sequência nebe maka ami acesso kata ia agenda dene se ihamos husu no hatan hanesan ambiente horsek nian yanebe Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu sira sei iha perguntas relativamente ho apresentação nebe maka setor importante sira nebe maka lidera husi ministério relevante sira apresenta nune sei iha perguntas foi ni dane sei hetan responde direita husi ministério relevante sira ho assunto nebe maka sira apresenta e assunto nebe maka sira apresenta la sesmos husi resultado monitorização nebe maka orsek equipa avaliação apresenta ona ia loron da hulukien liu konba plano estratégico desenvolvimento rihun rua sanulur senida no rihun rua tolonulu nebe makusi equipa avaliação sira fosai liu konba atingimento sucesso no desafio sira nebe maka durante ne Timor-Leste asuru liu kono pet ne rasik atunune liu si avaliação ni dane wensa maka atu hareba wen liu iha médio prazo ninian tamba hela detinan hira completa ona ba iha plano estratégico desenvolvimento e também ouvintes no telespectadores rádio televisão Timor-Leste nian atu informa dit kata ka iha apresentação nebe maka barakliu focaliu ba promoção ekonomia Azul nebe resiliente no sustentável iha Timor-Leste também maka iha apresentação hirak ne hotu sei sai hanesan referência ka indicator da unsama ka ba futuro atunune implementação de kona ba política implementação ba plano Ekonomia Azul e Timor-Leste também maka setor hotu precisa apresenta sirne plano de nebe maka dia atunune ba futuro implementação irak ne hotu belela ho dia ko de responde do ba ia meta sirak nebe maka Timor-Leste hakara tinzi ouvintes no telespectadores rádio televisão Timor-Leste atu informos baita bot circata daune ia salão auditório kairala sanana guzmão Ministério Finanças aitara clarandeli participantes sira hahu prensa na fatin la clarta discussão ka apresentação nebe husi setor importante nebe makohina menciona sei hau durante loron ohinian e parte locrai encontro de né sei insera direita husi ministro negócio estrangeiro no cooperação Benedito Freitas também ouvintes no telespectadores rádio televisão Timor-Leste hau convida de tita botira tu acompanha ambiente encontro nebe maka orsin de dau ka sei halau e salão idane turmai hau silorita botira bah mutu ko hanu belun Marcus Eko ode acompanha transmissão direita nebe maka horas ni dedang RTTL oferece baita botira.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, since we are approaching 9 o'clock, I would like to invite with all respect those of you who might still stand outside the conference room or inside the conference room to please take your seat and we shall begin our program shortly. Once again, I would like to invite those of you who might have not taken your seats to please be seated and we will begin our program in the next few minutes. Thank you. Again, a friendly reminder, please set your mobile phone devices to silent before we begin the program to avoid disruptions during the program.
Dia ouvintes no telespectadores Rádio Televisão Timor-Leste, Hanessa Nohen Amini apresentador Laurindo Raja Haba, apresenta ona a reunião anual Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu Timor-Leste nian ba loron da ruak nian nebe na fatin realiza e auditorium kauriala sanana guzmau Ministério Finanças itara clarandili. Ana singita hotu hatene kata ki reunião lorong horsek nebe que lau ia fatinha nesan discute assunto importante sira lhe apresentação com a progresso nebe que atinge durante né e setor sabe sira hanesan e administração pública e desenvolvimento Ekonomia Azul namos e desenvolvimento setor importante sira selo nebe que atinge ona durante né incluímos e apresentação nebe que apresenta e lorong horseikmos e progresso nos desafios nebe que sai recomendação vai encontro né hodino né governo bele toma notas não é bele alcança que a melhora de aclitan ninia progresso sira desenvolvimento sira e tinan hira tuirmai to tinan rihin rua tolonulo tuir metas nebe que governo irane decidiona. Ouvintes no telespectadores Rádio Televisão Timor-Leste e a lorong ida ohin se continua a apresentação do setor sabe importante sira nessa infraestrutura no desenvolvimento capital social nebe que governo lihusi ministério relevante sira se apresenta no moseia tan sessão husu no hatan baseada a apresentação nebe que ia maluk ouvintes no telespectadores sira Haluri tuan kita buat sirabakotu kat liga bahia encontro anual Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu Timor-Leste ninian ini historicamente nebe conhecido internacionalmente hanesan Tldpm Enkontru Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu Timor-Leste hahukeras e depois da restauração independência e início década região rua nian organiza karatinan husi governo li husi Ministério Finanças simera idane sahanesan forum principal do diálogo alto nível nian marca histórico no fase de desenvolvimento fase emergência no reconstrução região rua walo ouvintes no telespectadores Rádio Televisão Timor-Leste atofano na fatin baita botira kata objetivo husi encontro Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu tinan região rua nulo resingen honenia objetivo principal no nudar fórum crítico ida nebe convoca membro governo Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu organização sociedade civil no setor privado onde discute tópicos ir nebe relaciona ho trajetória de desenvolvimento Timor-Leste ninian encontro alto nível né foi espaço a sublinha governo nia plano no mos prioridade sira atu né bele encoraja parte interessada sirhotu atu serviço mútuo com objetivo comum sira e ouvintes no telespectadores rádio no televisão Timor-Leste la Cleortan encontro a reunião anual Parseiru Dezenvolvimentu Timor-Leste nian ba loron da ruak sehahu INB rádio no televisão Timor-Leste se halo no fato em transmissão direta a tuné ouvintes no telespectadores sira bele acompanha discussão nebe que se halao e a auditorium que relaciona no guzmão Ministério Finanças ninian malu krona na insira no hare na insira encontro ne se ba sessão savi rua hanesan ia horsek ida da uluk se sessão plenária ida nebe se fornece atualização sira nebe afeta a área sira ia governo tomak e batina ida ne maluk ouvintes no telespectadores sira kata participação husi governo sociedade civil husi corpo diplomático sira no doador sira nebe que discute assunto sira importante hanesan ohin ami menciona baita botira desde orse que a apresentação nebe que halau si parte técnico incluímos husu no hatan husi participante sira nomos resposta husi membro governo sira inclui primeiro-ministro que relaciona no Guzmão nebe que lidera encontro ida nerasek la Cleortan ita se hamutu que salão ke auditorium Kairal Sanana Guzmang nian dia acompanha discussão ke reunião anual badoloron daruak nian nebe halau ihia Ministério Finanças nian.
We then proceeded to receive more detailed information from the Prime Minister's Office on the policy and action plan for the promotion of a resilient and sustainable blue economy, charting the way forward to unlock the vast potential of Timor-Leste's ocean resources. The policy proposes a set of integrated policies and actions that, with a focus on the sea, support the country's economic and social development based on sound environmental practices in a diversified, sustainable, and inclusive manner, ensuring the long-term balance of marine ecosystems. This was followed by a high-level summary on the Strategic Development Plan Monitoring 2011-2024 and the lessons learned therein from our colleagues from the Ministry of Planning and Strategic Investment. This session provided a useful snapshot of where we stand in terms of our achievements on the goals of the Strategic Development Plan, and I look forward to hearing more about this in this morning's session. We then heard from the Vice Minister of ASEAN Affairs, Her Excellency Milena Maria da Costa Rangel, on the status of the full accession process for Timor-Leste, where we stand, and what comes next, culminating in Timor-Leste proposed chairmanship in 2029. Finally, the morning plenary session concluded with a presentation on the several reforms from the Public Service Commission, both realized and proposed. These reforms will help to professionalize the public sector and will go a long way towards supporting the vision of the three pillars outlined by His Excellency Prime Minister. With the plenary concluded, we then moved on to the Interministerial Coordination Commissions for the institutional and economic development sectors. Here we all received an update on the important achievements and goals for their respective sectors. But most importantly, we learned how our development partners can concretely support those sectors in the next coming years. Today, we will cover the remaining two sectors, that is, the infrastructure and social capital development sectors. We hope that today's session will be as useful and informative. Thank you very much. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to now invite with all respect Her Excellency Mrs. Santina Viegas Cardozo, Minister of Finance, for her welcome remarks.
Okay, thank you very much, Master of Ceremony. I think for the second day, I would like to welcome again for your patience to come back for the second days. I know that you have been so busy with other commitment, but your commitment to this Timor-Leste Development Partners meeting today is really appreciated from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the welcome remarks. Before we proceed to the next part of the agenda, once again, I would like to remind you that translation devices are available for your convenience. We have Tetun and Portuguese translation for the sessions today. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we will now have the first presentation for the day. And the first presentation is on infrastructure development sector, led by His Excellency Mr. Gastão Francisco de Souza, Minister of Planning and Strategic Investment. The presentation will be done by Mr. Lorenzo Pinto, Team Leader, Infrastructure and Economic Development Sectors, Ministry of Planning and Strategic Investment.
His Excellency Vice Prime Minister and Minister Coordinator from Economic Affairs and Minister of Tourism and Environment, Mr. Francisco Calbodile, dear colleagues, members of the 9 constitutional government, excellencies, ambassadors, distinguished development partners, the representatives of civil society, ladies and gentlemen, bon dia and good morning. It is great honor and privilege that I welcome you to the infrastructure sector session of the Timor-Leste Development Partners Meeting 2026. We gather today at a truly pivotal moment for our nation. Your presence here, your continued friendship, your expertise, and your commitment underscores the collective determination that has brought Timor-Leste so far on its development journey. For that, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to each of you. As many of you know, since the establishment of the Infrastructure Fund in 2011, we have allocated approximately $5.9 billion to our infrastructure agenda, with over $3.5 billion executed across more than 2,000 projects. Thousands of kilometers of roads, nationwide electrification reaching 99% of households, new ports and airports. These are not merely statistics. They are the tangible foundation of our national progress. But today, we are not here to celebrate the past alone. We are here to chart the future. The government is finalizing the medium-term plan 2027-2030, which will guide the final phase of our SDP 2011-2030. Through a rigorous whole-of-government process, one message has emerged with absolute clarity. Infrastructure must now become a direct driver of economy diversification. For years, our focus was necessarily on basic connectivity and public services. That phase was essential. Now we must shift from connectivity to competitiveness. The MTP 2027-2030 represents a fundamental change in how Timor-Leste plans, delivers, and manages infrastructure. First, we are moving from project-based planning to result-based delivery. Not just more projects, but measurable outcomes, lower transport costs, faster market access, reliable services, and real economic opportunities for our people. Second, we are moving from expansion alone to sustainability and maintenance. We must protect what we have built. Many roads still deteriorate too quickly. Water resources remain too high. Rural systems fail too often. This ends now. We will invest in asset management, maintenance systems, and financially sustainable utilities. Third, we are moving from fragmented investments to integrated economic corridors. Roads, electricity, water, ports, and digital connectivity cannot operate in silos. They must work together to unlock regional growth for agriculture, tourism, fisheries, logistics, and digital economy. Our priorities for 2030. Over the MTP period, our focus will be target and discipline. On roads, rehabilitate and seal 480 kilometers of national roads, upgrade over 650 kilometers of rural roads, and strengthen climate resilience maintenance. On the water and sanitation, we plan to deliver 40,000 new household connections, rehabilitate 550 rural systems, and expand urban networks. On energy, We plan to reduce system losses and develop over 50 megawatt of renewable capacity. On ports and airports, we plan to rehabilitate regional ports, upgrade municipal airports, and pilot electric bus systems in Delhi. On the digital, we have to expand nationwide broadband for full participation in digital economy. At the center of this is strong governance. We are strengthening our public investment management system and developing a national priority infrastructure pipeline to ensure that every dollar is economically justified, climate resilient, and aligned with national priorities. We do not stand here unaware of the road ahead. We face real constraints, limited fiscal space, geographical vulnerabilities, and the growing threat of climate change and natural disasters. Ensure transparency, accountability, and effective governance remains a constant and necessary challenge. But these challenges do not deter us. They define our work. So our invitation to you, distinguished development partners, the government cannot achieve these ambitions alone. We therefore invite your continued partnership, not merely as a financiers, but as a strategic allies in 4 critical areas. One is on financing strategic infrastructure that drives diversification. 2, strengthening institutions for procurement, maintenance, and asset management. 3, mobilizing private sector participation in energy, water, and transport. 4, supporting climate resilience and technical implementation capacity. Our objective is not simply to build more infrastructure. It is to ensure that infrastructure delivers measurable economic and social returns for every Timorese citizen. By 2030, we want to see farmers reaching markets faster and at lower cost. Business operating with reliable electricity and high-speed internet. Families accessing clean water and safe and affordable transport. And our municipalities becoming stronger, more equitable centers of opportunity. This is how infrastructure becomes the foundation of a diversified, resilient, and prosperous Timor-Leste. The Timor-Leste Development Party meeting is our premier platform for honest dialogue and shared strategy. That's why I use each of you to engage actively, share your experience, and contribute your expertise. Together, we can shape strategies that are not only ambitious, but also practical, accountable, and attuned to the evolving needs of our people. I now invite my fellow ministers, public or transport and agriculture, to discuss the priorities, challenges, and opportunities in their respective portfolios. With that, once again, I extend my warmest welcome and look forward to a productive and fruitful discussion. Obrigado and thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the speech. And next, we'll have the presentation by Mr. Lorenzo Pinto.
Good morning, Excellencies Vice Prime Minister, Minister of Finance, and Excellencies all the members of government. esteemed development partners, donors, and civil society representatives, colleague technicals from all the line ministries, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. First of all, please bear with me for a couple of minutes, especially 15 to 20 minutes ahead, as my presentation will be slightly technical, as we will be going through a lot of quantitative data, but we'll keep at the high level so that in terms of how it will guide us in the next 5 years in terms of collaboration and partnership in the infrastructure development pillar. So my presentation today, I'll focus on the infrastructure development priorities and also on the, that is towards the implementation of SDP from 2011-2030. And what we focus is the roadmap from, as highlighted by the ministers and prime ministers at this time, we are no longer focusing on the strategic planning, conceptualizing, but what we will focus is on the implementation, execution of projects to implement the priorities that has been established, and especially towards the high impact for the social economic development. Excellencies, as already highlighted by the prime ministers, ministers, and from the government itself, that, and even our minister today in his speech, he highlighted clearly that infrastructure is the backbone of our economy. As a direct driver of our economy, a prerequisite and fundamental for private sector investment, education, health, and other sectors. So, to set the context, I believe our ministers already set the context as today, but I'll focus on the 4-year window that is in our closing opportunity for the structural changes, structural gains in the past 2 days. So the focus of the today presentation, there will be 3 main priorities. So the purpose firstly, we will focus objectively on reflecting the progress towards infrastructure development that is already highlighted in the presentation yesterday. Secondly, I will present or highlight the key strategic bottlenecks, top-tier sectoral priorities, and implementation focus points required for the pillar. And finally, I will present a clear result-oriented medium-term framework that will directly link our high-level pillars, priorities to concrete subsector outcomes, target and targeted interventions. So next, yeah. So as highlighted yesterday, what I'd like to everyone to pay attention here is that from our recent progress monitoring, we have evaluated 42 specific infrastructure targets. The overall positive execution rate stands at an encouraging 71.4%. When we break this down, 24% of our targets are fully completed, and 16% shows an advanced progress. However, if we see closer, large share of the proportion is, or approximately 55% remains in partial progress, and 5% shows slow progress. And when we look closer, we see a stark divergence between subsectors. Highly consolidated positive results are heavily recorded in roads and bridges, airports, ports, and telecommunication. Conversely, public services sector like electricity, water, and sanitation continue to be dominated by partial progress, highlighting an urgent need for accelerating execution. The core takeaways from this is that we have arrived at a critical transition phase. We must shift rapidly from conducting feasibility studies and making strategic decisions to the physical, on-the-ground execution of the ready investment. So the recommendation that we have here is that the findings that we identified, the Ministry of Planning in coordination with all the infrastructure pillar ministries like Ministry of Transport and Communication, Ministry of Public Works, Ministry of State Administrations, we have formulated priority recommendations and identified a core execution plan. So our primary recommendation is to accelerate physical work on partial progress, goals that are already at the technically developed and investment ready. We prioritize electricity, water and sanitation, and digital connectivity. And what we see is that due to their immense contribution, direct social impact on our population. So that's why we have considered and prioritized them in the infrastructure pillar. We also are reforming our monitoring mechanism to ensure homogeneous progress criteria, deepening public-private partnership, and focusing heavily on reducing territorial asymmetries between Delhi and municipalities. Importantly, our main risk does not stem from a lack of public policy. The challenge is persistent in terms of delays in project implementation. But over the past years, the government, we have started initiatives on improving, specifically on the causes, the root causes of the delays of the project. So we have worked on some of this, but in terms of the result, we haven't captured at this stage. So the highest strategic gains will come from completing and effectively operationalizing projects that are already underway. And to succeed, the interministerial coordination and absolute financial predictability will be our determining factor. Next, please. So, now, in terms of challenges, as we look across all the subsectors, we find 6 interconnected system challenges that are historically impeded our progress. First and foremost, our infrastructure remain at fiscal, technically we say burden to our fiscal management, which is driven by heavy operational subsidies. Secondly, we frequently deal with potential issue of overlapping institutional in terms of roles and responsibilities. This is actually hindering our accountability in terms of shared responsibility and accountability. The third is the private sector participation still remains limited. And the fourth, what we see is that in terms of asset management, we still lack asset management and also asset and life cycle management that has caused newly built assets to deteriorate prematurely. And the fifth challenge is that the climate resilience integration has been low, leaving vital networks exposed to natural disasters. And to address all these challenges, it requires us to fundamentally strengthen how we prioritize and sequence our public investment. So in terms of how we address these challenges, these are the cross-cutting challenges. And to overcome these cross-cutting bottlenecks, the medium-term plan for 2027-2030 institute 3 strategic shifts. We are transitioning from traditional project-based planning, that is strict to result-based planning, and evaluating our success by actual socio-economic outcomes rather than inputs. We are shifting from a growth at all cost mindset to absolute financial sustainability, actively reducing state subsidies and improving user cost recovery mechanism. And finally, we are moving away from fragmented infrastructure choices in terms of the ad hoc infrastructure choices towards coordinated investment that is directly aligned with our economic development corridors, our blue economy goals, and our integration into ASEAN. So this slide maps out our logical result, which provide a transparent structure for our partnership. Our overarching national impact is to achieve sustainable, inclusive, and climate-resilient economic growth. To get there, our primary goal is to ensure that all infrastructure in Timor-Leste is reliable, financially sustainable by the year 2030. This goal is driven by 5 key pillars of actions: establishing universal access to basic services, improving physical connectivity and market access, driving high institutional efficiency, and embedding climate resilience into our design standards, and directly supporting non-oil economic diversification. So this particular slide, we detailed the steps, the concrete actionable priorities that the government will drive forward immediately. In terms of transport, we will clear the remaining national road backlogs while pivoting to rehabilitate municipal and core rural links, connecting all municipal capitals. We will fully operationalize the road maintenance fund. This is in progress, under discussion, and launch the Port Council by 2027. In utility, we are targeting to reduce the electricity system losses from 33% down to 25% through tariff reforms and renewable energy PPPs, while working to bring non-revenue water under 50%. And importantly, we will operationalize our submarine internet cable to expand last-mile broadband connectivity and formalize climate resilience design standards across all asset classes. Our guiding principle or guiding baseline that is simple, and our priority goes to investment that are implementable, fiscally sustainable, and directly support the economic growth. For this, the matrix established the specific targets we intend to meet by 2030. We expect 85% of our national and municipal roads to be maintained in good or fair condition, opening up domestic market access. We will reduce non-revenue water from its staggering 85% baseline to below 50% to ensure that financially it is survival in terms of financially. And energy sector, technical and commercial losses will be capped at 25%, while renewable energy will be scaled up to comprise at least 50% of our national power mix. This is according to our national strategic development plan. And high-speed broadband coverage will expand to cover 80% or more of our population. And finally, a major fiscal success metric will be reducing the direct electricity power subsidy. And our analysis, our work currently is that we will keep it to 3% of our national budget, as currently the subsidy is quite high for the national. So through this effort, it will create significant fiscal space for health and education. So with the next, we will focus on roads and bridges. So when we deep dive into transport and infrastructure, please make some correction if you have the slides. We made an adjustment to the baseline data. So we have taken out the 65% as we are still working on the final validation in terms of the setup, the baseline data for our connectivity, especially in national roads, that is in terms of the condition of our national roads. So at the moment, we keep all the baseline at the TBD as we are progressing in finalizing this. So for roads and bridges, this is what once we finalize the baseline for 2025, at the moment we have the data that gives us the indication to work towards establishing the target. And the target for roads and bridges that we will keep the roads approximately 85% of will be maintained and with good condition. And we are also establishing a firm baseline to track and achieve a 20% reduction in travel time from Delhi to municipal capitals. And given our vulnerability to extreme weather, we are committing to ensure that at least 80% of our combined road network is completely climate-proofed. And crucially, the institutional framework will shift away from an ad hoc emergency repairs to a sustainable asset management via a fully operational and independently financed road maintenance fund. So this is currently does not exist, and in terms of its operational realization. To achieve this target, our road intervention will highly strategic rather than piecemeal. We are bundling truck, feeder, and municipal roads together by geography zone, focusing first on critical economic corridors such as Dili, Baucau, Maubisi, Ainaro, Lautem, and Vikeke. What will it take to make this a reality? By 2027, the Road Maintenance Fund must be fully operationalized with a dedicated governance, permanent staff, and secure capital funding source. We will improve the drainage and climate resilient engineering to guarantee that all 13 municipal capitals enjoy uninterrupted all-weather year-round access by 2030. However, to avoid this scoping and fiscal waste, we will rely strictly on an updated mapping to target a climate proofing exclusively to high-risk road segments. So to achieve this, it will require a close coordination between the Ministry of Public Works and also municipal administrations or local government. For water and sanitation, please move. Yeah. Moving into our vital utility sectors, let us look at close water and sanitation. Our outcomes are explicitly organized across 5 key pillars areas. Currently, in 2025, our system efficiency is severely compromised by a non-revenue water baseline of approximately 85%. And our target is to bring this down below 50% by 2030. For access, we intend to expand safely managed water coverage from 87% to a full 100% universal access target. In rural areas, we are tackling system sustainability by increasing the functionality of community water management groups, or GMF, from 50% up to 90%. And on sanitation, we are starting from a baseline of 0 municipal fecal sludge management system and intend to establish operational system in all 13 municipalities. And finally, to ensure the entire network does not collapse financially, we will push our cost recovery ratio from 60% up to 85% or even higher. And to achieve this target by 2030, the Ministry of Public Works is deploying 4 core strategic action. And firstly, we are launching a campaign to reduce non-revenue water payer with improved utility, billing, and collection systems. Second, we will expand direct household piped connections in urban environments while systematically repairing existing rural water infrastructure. And third, we will move from past planning to physically build and roll out operational what's called the waste sanitary management system across all 13 municipal capitals. And the fourth, we will recognize that that infrastructure cannot run on goodwill alone. We will implement necessary tariff reforms alongside a targeted subsidies strategy to protect our most vulnerable citizens. In terms of implication on water and sanitation, so we will be fully transparent about what these targets mean in practice. Bringing non-revenue water down to 50% requires an intense physical rollout of water meters and advanced leak detection. These occurred sequentially. Year 1 and 2 will focus heavily on Delhi and secondary cities, followed by a rural expansion in year 3 through 5. This also means that creating pressure management zones to reduce physical stress on our Asian pipe networks and executing commercial loss operations to identify and eliminate illegal connections. Furthermore, achieving an 80% of cost recovery ratio means reforming our current tariff of 30 cents per cubic meter, which currently cover only 60% of the actual 50-cent production cost. To reach financial survival, our average tariff must gradually increase by 100%, up to 60 cents per cubic meters. This tariff rationalization and target subsidy strategy will be formally adopted by the end of this year or next year. Additionally, we will allocate a dedicated budget to permanently repair and the roughly 1,800 broken rural water system currently fracturing our local and rural network. So none of this will succeed as a long-term unless we immediately finalize and enforce our climate resilience engineering standards to protect these assets from seasonal flooding. Turning to the electricity sector, Timor-Leste has made extraordinary structural gains in grid access, sitting at a 99.7% baseline in terms of accessibility. And our goal for 2030 is to bridge the final gap to achieve 100% of total national household access. However, our secondary metrics requires rapid operational course correction. Our technical and commercial system losses are currently at 33%, and we must push this down below 25%. Our current energy generation is almost dependent on imported fossil fuel, and with renewable energy making up less than 1%. So that's why by 2030, we are aiming to transition our power generation mix to at least 50% renewable energy. So this is directly tied to fiscal sustainability, and EDTL subsidies will that is currently 6 to 7% of our entire national budget. We intend to slash this subsidy burden to 3%. And structurally, this can be overseen by establishing a fully functional or fully operational independent energy regulator. So this is one of the priorities that the government will work on. The strategic roadmap for electricity, in terms of the numbers, it involves 5 clear actions. The first, we will implement a comprehensive loss reduction strategy targeting technical grid leakages and commercial theft. We will enact critical tariff reforms to enhance revenues. To hit our 50% clean energy goals, we are actively developing a bankable pipeline for public-private partnership in solar and wind. And of course, adding an imminent renewable power requires us to upgrade our physical grid infrastructure and integrate modern battery storage capacity. And finally, we are overhauling the governance of EDTL to transition it towards a commercially viable public enterprises. And here, let us be very direct. Achieving financial sustainability in electricity requires politically difficult in terms of structural reforms. But burning through the 66% to 7% of the state budget, especially on the energy operational subsidies, it is fundamentally unaffordable in terms of in its medium-term plan. So forcing system losses down to 25% from 33% is an absolute prerequisite to lowering the subsidy drag down that, and stabilizing the EDTL balance sheet will be one of the priorities that we will work on. If we succeed in pulling this off, we will successfully free up approximately 3.5% of our national budget. That is capital that can be implemented or reallocated into healthcare, public education, and target poverty reduction. And achieving this cost recovery necessitates a multi-year and sustained tariff adjustment path over the next 5 years. And to ensure this transition does not penalize low-income families, we will lock in a dedicated lifeline tariffs and targeted protection measures to shield poor households from economic hardship. The second piece of electricity puzzle is that our renewable energy transition requires fast, early project and grid engineering decision. We need a functional, transparent PPP project pipeline, updated grid, upgrade design, secure grid implementation plans, and highly bankable power offtake agreements. The government will make immediate strategic decision on which PPP solar or wind project will move first, what specific offtake prices are financially acceptable, and whether our current grid infrastructure can safely absorb intermittent generations without failing. And concurrently, our independent regulator must be established quickly. At the moment, in terms of independent regulator, existence still inadequate or limited. And to ensure a fully operational regulatory by January 2028, this is our plan. To enabling legislation be draft, approved by the government and by the Council of Ministers, and need to be passed by the Parliament. And this will support the government and also the state to move forward with this electricity sector in terms of regulatory bodies. So these regulatory bodies will possess a clear, uncompromised mandate to approve tariffs and enforce service quality standards and across the country. Moving on to ports and airports. This is the sectors that are really critical for the last phase of the SDP implementation. So in terms of maritime and transport national gateways, our 2030 indicator centers on 4 areas. Under governance, we will establish a formal national port council to centralize sector oversight. In finance, we are addressing a major deficit, that is our current passenger and freight ferry costs. Services operate at an unsustainably low cost recovery rate of under 10%. And we aim to bring ferry cost recovery up to at least 40%. For trade, our infrastructure must be actively support non-oil economic growth, meaning that we are targeting a 30% expansion in export throughput via our port facilities. And to physically handle this, our infrastructure target is to scale up from 2 rehabilitated ports to 6 fully operational regional ports by 2030. Our strategic activities in maritime transport are highly targeted. We will formally establish and operationalize the Port Council by 2027 and granting it clear legal authority over the national tariff structure and berth allocations and maritime operating standard. We will systematically update passengers' tariff and execute public service obligation, or PSO, contract for our ferry services to improve cost efficiency. On the physical asset side, we will complete the rehabilitation of our 6 targeted regional ports while upgrading maritime safety through the installation of a modern lighthouse and open water navigations. To successfully drive a 30% increase in exports, we will improve ground cargo handling, reduce vessel turnaround times, and tighten logistic coordination between customs and port operators. Our baseline metric for development partners is clear. We must deliver at least 50% of planned ports assets ahead of schedule, shifting our focus to immediate operational functionality rather than just celebrating physical construction. And while we are also recognizing that the long-term vision of becoming a regional maritime hub, our medium-term priority will remain locked on securing highly efficient national gateway operations first. For public transport, turning the land transport, our current public transit sector is largely informal and in terms of regulated, that is very limited. And our medium-term plan institutes a structured shift from a regulated and planned national network. And institutionally, our headline target is to have a fully operational National Transport Authority, or NPTA, to be established by 2027. And in terms of network coverage, we aim to transfer our transition corridor by moving from less than 10% formalized routes to at least 60% formalized. Regulated routes by 2030. For social access and inclusivity, we will upgrade our transit terminals so that at least 70% of them are fully accessible to individuals with limited mobility or mobility challenges, up to a current baseline of 0. And finally, We will also launch our green energy transition by rolling out a pilot fleet of electric buses in Delhi. This is very ambitious, but we are putting in there so that we will work towards that, as we are in the phase of digital transformation, so there is nothing impossible. We put that depending on the financial availability. In terms of strategic actions and what it will take us to get there, to realize this regulated network, our strategic action will focus on institutional setup and market formalization. First, we will establish the NPTA by 2027, which requires finalizing clear regulatory frameworks, securing staffing model, dedicated budgets, and legal enforcement protocols. And second, we will introduce structural public service obligation, contract for regional and urban bus services to guarantee route reliability. And third, we will physically upgrade passenger bus, shelters, and main terminals. In terms of sequencing, we will formalize 30% of transit routes by 2027 and reach our 60% target by 2030. Prioritizing high traffic or urban corridor first, we will strictly enforce mandatory vehicle inspections, life cycle asset management, driver training standards, and route compliance metrics. Critically, we know that shifting from informal to regulated transit can cause friction. We will actively manage the transition from existing informal operators through clear economic incentives and a transparent licensing system. Throughout this transition, maintaining strict fare affordability for poor and low-income households will remain a core design parameters. For ICT, our final subsector under the infrastructure pillar is information and communication technology. And our rapidly integrating global environment, digital connectivity is no longer a luxury. It is an economic necessity for our ASEAN integration. For connectivity, we aim to double our high-speed 4G and 5G network coverage from 45% baseline to a 95% nationwide. On affordability, our current data costs are high, consuming roughly 4.8% of gross national income. Yes, of gross national income per gigabyte. Our target is to compress data cost below 3% of GNI per gigabyte. This will directly support digital inclusion, allowing us to push internet penetration from 54% to 90% of our population. And to secure this digital expansion, we will establish and operationalize a national cybersecurity incident response team, or CSIRT. Next, please. Okay. To hit these ambitions, the ambition of digital transformation targets, our immediate strategic activities centers on infrastructure activation. We will fully activate our national submarine internet cable, expand our physical fiber optic backbone, and build our last mile connectivity, prioritizing underserved rural municipalities. To compress consumer data cost to under 3% of gross national income, the government will enact regulatory reforms to lower wholesale bandwidth with cost, stimulate private telecom competition, and ensure that these structural savings are directly passed